All right, James. So excited to
What's
have you
up?
on our show, my friend.
Me too. Honored to be here. It's gonna be
Yeah,
fun.
be a great time. I want to know. So the question I've been
Yeah,
asking everybody is like, we want to hear the story of how you got where you are to where
yeah,
you can be teaching what you're teaching.
absolutely. And I think for all of us, especially as coaches, consultants, trainers, typically it's because you went through a rocky time in your life, and the best person to serve someone else is someone that's been through that pain as well too. So Tyler, my journey as an entrepreneur, primarily it's in network marketing. I stumbled into when I was 19. I was a broke college student at UC Berkeley. I was trying to be a doctor because I'm Asian, and that's what Asians supposed to do, you know. And I fell into network marketing. I was just looking for a side gig. I wanted to grow, and
Mhm.
somehow ended up doing well enough to the point that instead of going to medical school, I did network marketing full time, and
Good
life
for
was
you.
rosy and great, and we got to the top positions and all that. And of course, whatever goes up, there's downs, and we had a really bad year. 90% of our business disappeared. Things happened that were out of our control. It landed me into a whole year of depression, Tyler. And as coaches and consultants, like we're generally positive, right? Mindset's
Yeah,
everything.
we're the ones leading other people.
Exactly. So it's one of those times where I lost it. And I,
Mhm.
I remember looking to my wife, and we downsized everything. All the toys went. We were just stripped away of everything. And I'm very spiritual, very biblical, so it felt like a Job moment where it seemed like you were doing things right, and yet tragedy still came. And I remember I looked to my wife straight in her eyes, and I said, "Babe, I give up. Just can't do this." It's like, what do you do? And I wonder if the listener would relate to me on this. Is the right things to do, you are doing the hustle and the grind,
Mhm.
you're going to the trainings, you're listening to this podcast, and yet the breakthrough still doesn't come. And that's where I was at, Tyler. So I was just like, there has to be more to this than that, than just working hard and grinding and everything. And
Yeah.
that got me into starting to really understand how the mind works, how our spiritual natures tie into that, and how to kind of reverse things. And long story short, I realized that anyone that's massively successful, and you do this, Tyler, and the people that you interview and the people that you see, have you ever met someone, Tyler, that they just make everything seem easy,
Yeah, all the time. Yep,
right?
very often.
And it's like, come on. And to be honest, all right, and I don't know if coaches, you would feel me on this too. You look at others and you're like, why are they getting all the clients and they're crushing it, and yet I work harder.
Yep.
I'm as smart, to be honest. Maybe I'm smarter than them as well too. It's like
Yep.
there's a certain way of doing things that these people have either consciously or many times unconsciously tapped into. And there's spiritual principles in this. And I label it how to 10x your results with less hustle. And there's a way to do it right there,
Yeah.
So,
I love that.
oh my gosh. But when it comes to mindset stuff, like what does that mean to you, Tyler? I know you're a big student of the mind and personal growth,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm going to be honest. If I'm going to be raw right now, I'm like,
Yeah.
I've been in one of those like struggling moments,
Mm,
right? When it comes to mindset, I am a
mm,
complete believer that your mindset is everything. And I've
yeah.
been down in a hole lately trying to pull myself out of it. And so I'm going to flip the question to
Yeah.
you and ask
Yeah.
an honest, genuine question.
I appreciate it.
I, I know where the potential is of what we're
Yeah.
trying to do. It's just hard to see when you're in the thick of it.
1000%. And thanks for the transparency, Tyler.
Yeah.
This is why your listeners listen, because you're raw and real and everything. And we're on the journey, right? So
Yep.
here's one of the most valuable ideas I ever picked up, because we hear that mindset is everything.
Yep.
And that's the frustrating part, because we know it is,
Yeah.
but what does that mean?
Yeah. I mean, we
Right?
all know that eating healthy helps you be healthy, but we don't always do it.
Exactly. We call this the knowing doing gap. Why are there things that we do that we shouldn't do? And why are there things that we don't do that we know we should do, right? It's kind of like if you're in a relationship, your wife tells you take out the trash, you're like, I got it, babe, I got it, babe, and we don't do it. It's like,
Yep.
why?
Yeah.
And
As well
here's an
intentioned as we
image.
are.
Exactly. Here's an image I want to share with you. Have you ever seen this before? And I know audio won't be able to see this. I'll
Yeah,
describe
that's
it.
okay. You're
Okay.
good. No, I haven't.
This is what I realized when I was down in my dumps, when hard work isn't enough. And I want to challenge a listener right now to know hustling harder is not the answer.
I love that.
It has to be a different thing. So I got this from Bob Proctor. He's most known for being in The Secret, and he studies the
Yep.
mind, and he studied Think and Grow Rich and all that. But it's important, if you want to change your mindset, you have to know what it looks like. All right.
Yep.
Most of us, if we think about a mind, Tyler, prior to looking at this, if I ask you what does a mind look like, what image will pop in your mind?
Yeah, a brain.
Exactly. Right. But the mind is not the brain as much as the thumb is not the brain. The mind's an organ, it has electronic circuits and is a switching station, basically, right? The mind is connected with God. The mind is it's more than that. So this is interesting. We are 3 parts in one. Interesting. God is 3 in 1. He made us 3 in 1 as well too. So this is how it works. You notice the body's this little small thing.
Mm-hmm.
You see, most of us, when we take a look at results, we only look at what do I need to do? What's the new strategy? What's a new thing? Now there's AI, and especially as coaches, right? We're like, oh my gosh, I'm behind. How do you feel that way? Like that's kind of how I felt before. It's like,
Yeah.
But it's not the thing. You see, the thing is the last thing to do. Of course, we have to take action, get a result, but what's upstream to that? Then we have a mind. And the mind is bigger than the body. The mind has a conscious, this is our logic, our reason. We can use this to make decisions. But the important thing, if you want to change your results in 10x it, is the subconscious mind. And we hear these adages of you get in life not what you do, we get in life who you are.
Yeah.
Who you are is an accumulation of subconscious habits. We call them paradigms. So that could be in your business results. That could be in your money. That could be in your weight. Have you noticed? I won't ask what it is, but have you noticed there's a set point with your weight that you kind of fluctuate at?
Absolutely.
And it's like, isn't that so amazing, right?
It's funny, huh?
It's crazy. And we can change them if we want. It's just like a thermostat, right? But when I started to realize that the mind is, you can actually reprogram it and you can set it at a certain point for your business results. Or why not just accept that we can have 10x the results in everything, you know? It's going to be a big thing. And the last part to this is there's a spirit, right? Spirit is everywhere, all knowing. Some call the spirit God. I call him the Holy Spirit. You know, some call it energy or universe. But when you start to, how do you 10x your results? When you start to ask yourself these questions that are detached from what we see. Here's the challenge that I face, and I think most of us face, Tyler, is that when we're setting our goals, we take a look at what we can see visually.
Yep.
Well, here's my bank account. Well, here's what's been happening in my business. Well, look, I've been trying for months and years, and this is what's going on, right? And that influences our mind and it pulls it down back to quote unquote reality. But what is seen is not the reality. What is unseen is the bigger part of things. So we have to then start to challenge ourselves to accept the spiritual nature of ourselves and start to ask yourself this question. So this question changed my life, which is this. If time and money were not an issue and you knew you couldn't fail, what would success look like for you? So even for you, Tyler, in your podcast here, what would that look like for you? If anything, just the biggest thing you could think about, what would that look like?
I've been trying to answer that question, my friend.
Yeah.
I honestly, I feel like I've been clear on it at times in my life, but right now I've been like, is that truly what I want? Right. And trying to figure that out. I've been on a kind of a new discovery of like, I feel like I had a very clear vision of what I wanted, but then I'm like, you know what? That's not who I am.
That's exciting.
Right. So yeah, so I'm in the midst of that. I don't know. The answer on his questions, I don't know.
It's super exciting then, you know, because the worst thing in life is to achieve success, quote unquote, but you realize you're climbing up the wrong ladder.
Yep.
Right. So it's important that we ask ourselves that question, and it's a process. Right. And if we believe in a spiritual nature in ourselves, and there's a scripture I love, which is James chapter 1, verse 5, which is, if you need wisdom, ask God for it, and he will give it to you freely without reproach. Right. Now, he might not answer immediately, but it will always be on time. But when you start asking these questions, Tyler, just know that every question you ask, there will be an answer. And that type of seeking. And for any of the listeners right now, if that's what you're searching for too, it's okay. You know, it's like we have to keep on knocking. If you ask, you seek, you knock, the door will be opened. But you have to. Why? Well, I think God wants to know, do we really, really want something? The only way if you know you want something is if we keep on asking like a little child, you know?
Yep.
So it's going to come. But when that clicks, and Tyler, your previous vision brought you to where you are right now.
Yep.
Your next vision, oh my gosh, I wonder where that's going to be as well too.
Yep.
You know, so that's that to bridge the gap. When I start to ask myself these types of questions, and specifically with my spiritual call as well too, I think that's, if you have a relationship with the Lord, just ask Him for oh my gosh, His dreams are going to blow your mind. And then take those diligent little steps. So let me go back to this figure. Your spiritual nature inspires your mind. You accept it in your subconscious. It then motivates you to take an action. You know, there's inspired hunches and ideas. I need to do this and this. Like even talking today, Tyler, you were inspired to reach out.
Yep.
And I was inspired to connect back. You know, so guys, if you don't know how we connected, I made a post in some podcasters groups.
Yep.
There were a very small handful that actually responded to my post, and only one actually really stood out. You're the only person, Tyler, that I actually connected with. Did you know that?
Wow, I didn't know that. That's amazing.
There's a reason. I don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but something's amazing is going to happen, you know? So,
yep.
But it's those types of inspired thoughts that you can see the step, but you can't see the staircase. When you start rolling in, this is how you 10x results with less hustle. You see, I'll just use Jesus as an example. Let's say you don't believe in who he was, but you believe he's a person.
Yeah.
Right? He's historically documented as a person.
Yep.
Yeah, did a lot. Get this. It was stated he did his public ministry for 3.5 years, but it led to an organization of 2 billion people over 2,000 years. So a very successful entrepreneur, basically.
Yep.
You know what's so interesting, Tyler? Now, those are 10x results. Those are a lot of results. You know, it was never, ever stated that Jesus ever ran, skipped, jogged, fast walked. He never hustled. In fact, he took naps. He feasted. He partied. Like there's a certain, and this is what you see, Tyler, with high performers. They do a lot, and yet there's a certain like pace to them.
Yep.
And if we understand that, tapping into your spiritual nature, understanding how your mind works, and then taking obedient, faithful action, life is completely different. So life changed for us. We rebuilt our business in a fraction of a time. We've now launched a book. I just actually launched a book called The Miraculous Breakthrough Formula. It talks about that spiritual side more, how to reprogram your mind. Our business completely transformed, just bought and moved into a dream home. Just all the different things. And it's like, oh my gosh, this is the person that told my wife, I give up.
Yeah.
And I just want to encourage the listener. Things can change relatively quickly if you allow it to.
Well, I really appreciate you bringing all this up. I think the thing that I struggle with when it comes to mindset, and I think a lot of people is, you know, I've had this vision, I've had this idea of what I want out there, and I've put it out to God or the universe, whatever they believe in, and it's been like, okay, but I just don't see it still.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so you've talked about, you know, getting past that and moving through that and whatnot. I think for me, the hardest part's always like, how do I truly connect with what I see? And connect it to like my inner subconscious.
Yes.
Right. Because on a conscious level, I believe it pretty well, but it is hard to like actually truly take it deep.
Yeah. It takes repetition. So psychologically, there's 2 ways to shift your subconscious. One is an emotional impact. So unfortunately, usually that's in a negative sense.
Yeah.
But you can, if you can somehow, so visualization, of course, that's a very powerful thing. But the second thing is constant spaced repetition, just repetition over and over and over and over and over again, where you can convince your subconscious of that.
Yeah.
But if you're a person of faith, then I believe there's something better, which is that if you know God, God gives you the power to actually give you the right thoughts and also inspires you to do the things to do, even if you don't believe it entirely. There's a story that Jesus had, blind man. Perhaps you remember this story. Blind man, Jesus goes and says, hey, do you believe I can heal you? And he's like, I do, I believe, but help my unbelief.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh, so I don't have to be perfect in my belief in everything, which is the key. That. And perhaps if you're a person of faith, perhaps the biggest thing tripping us up, it did for me, is I thought I had to do everything on my own accord.
Yep.
But allow God to do what he does best. You're like, God, I'm just obedient. I don't know it all. I don't have to know it all. Just give me the next step. Oh, God's searching to and fro around the world, looking for people whose hearts are committed to him. And that's the type of people that he blesses. So I'm like, that's way easier.
I love that. I just wrote down, help thou my unbelief. Because I love that. I really, that's like resonating with me. And I appreciate you, bringing that up, because it really is. I think you get, especially as an entrepreneur, when you're holding the ship up, right? When you've got employees, you've got customers, all these things, and you're like, I do need to be the guy, right? Or the gal, right? Like I've got to be the one, like I've got to be perfect. It's, you expect yourself to be perfect in your belief as well, because you're the one pitching the vision for everybody. Right? You're like, I've got to be the person saying, guys, the ship's not sinking, even if it is sinking, right? Or the ship is not sinking, even if or the ship is sinking, even when it's not sinking, whatever it is. And I like that, because that brings it back home of just being like, help my unbelief. Like, you've got to submit to God and say, I need your help.
Yeah.
Right. Like, I've got some unbelief and I need you. So
it's so much easier that way, brother. Oh my gosh, the weight of the world. And I think that's where the stress of the entrepreneur, and that's why, especially for a person of faith, we have an X factor. My dog says hi as well too.
It's always on podcasts when they say hi.
I know, exactly. They just have the right time, But that's that encouragement, right? If you do have a relationship, it's a relationship, and perhaps that's that signal. Remember, 10x results with less hustle. And I just think, once again, to how Jesus lived his life. Like, he did a lot as a man, right? Inspired by the Holy Spirit. But it's like, wow, you can do a lot of things if you do things the right way. So give it a shot. That's what the book also talks about too. There's some very practical principles in this one. But I appreciate your transparency, brother, because I know, and I think everyone, one of our listeners, like, this is so real. It's so real.
Yeah. Well, I think for all of us, it's just, how to put this? It almost doesn't feel real sometimes, because you're just, even though it does, you feel it. It's almost like, okay, I'm in it, but it's just like, it almost just seems like you're watching yourself from the outside, of just being like, is this actually like where I feel like, especially when you've been on like a high before, you've been in a high point in your life, you're like, I'm not used to being down here, right? I'm used to being at a different spot. And so I just want to offer encouragement too to everyone, is like, you can come out of it, right? Like, they're like that, like you have to be in it, right? Like, God didn't put us here in our life, in our journey to not have bad times, right? He sent us here to learn, and he sent us here to grow. And the only way you grow is by having hard things happen and learning how to recover from those. And even though for myself, I may be having a harder time right now with something in my life, it's like, I know that it's supposed to happen, right? We're supposed to have those hard times so that we can recover, because without recovery, there is no way to improve.
It's exactly it. It's exactly it. It's interesting in James, I think it's chapter 1, once again, it says, count it for all joy when you go through tribulation, because that develops perseverance, and that's the perfection of you. So things happen for you, not to you. And it sucks when you're in the midst of it. But just to flip that question, right? So if you're going through a tough time right now, one of the ways to get out of it is two things, real quick. Number one, ask, what am I supposed to learn through this?
Yep.
And what am I supposed to learn through? Because now I'm talking about when I was in that valley and it sucked during it, but now I'm talking about that. I'm like, oh, it makes sense now, right?
Yeah.
And that's the reality. We're always going to go through these ups and downs. There's the dichotomy of life. Number two is what you're doing right now, which is sometimes it means that the old vision, it needs to be enhanced. That's what I found for me too, Tyler. I was clinging on to an old vision, especially when you had something, you lost it, like the tendencies, you want to get it back again.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a reason why that dream disintegrated, because it's time for that next one. And the challenge is, think again bigger. And I challenge anyone here, like, think outrageous dreams. And that starts to get it. We're on a trip back from Bali, and I finally made that. I got out of my depressive funk, and I was just like, all right. I asked myself that question. If time and money were not an issue, anything were possible, what would it be like? And I started to finally think differently than I was thinking before. And though everything that I penned down, I can see how that is now actualizing. And I'm like, wow, it changed. So I'm excited to see what it is that you're going to pen down, man.
Absolutely. Me too, my friend. I appreciate that.
Of course.
But James, I feel like you've given so much value today. I mean, we've got to wrap this up here. Do you have any other last tidbits you'd like to share with anyone before we go today?
Just know that if you are going through that valley right now, I just want to prophesy over you that that is the exact situation that's going to lead you to the impact, the goals that you have, everything that you're looking for right now. It is disguised as that gift. It's that Trojan horse that God, the universe, whatever you believe in, does for us. And we have the ability, the circumstance won't change overnight, but the perspective can. And I know it sounds so trite and so cliche, perspective, but it's so key. And my challenge and my encouragement today would be this: if you can learn how to be absolutely grateful, even when all hell is breaking loose, seemingly in your circumstances. And that's what changed for me. I was just like, I'm just grateful for God. I'm grateful for who I am. I'm grateful for just being here. I know this is not the end of the story. I believe that God woke you up today with another breath in the lungs because he ain't done with you yet. There's more to the story right now.
Yep.
But if you can truly get to that place of just gratitude, detached from accolades, achievements, circumstances, anything, and you understand your identity once again, what happens is it flips the way you do work. Instead of a achievement based, it is a identity based thing. And you don't care. The results will come. The fruit will come. But if you can shift that today, just give it the next couple months and years and just watch what happens. My encouragement to you.
I love that. Thank you so much. With that, guys, we're going to end on a high note. Thank you, James, so much for coming today.
You're absolutely welcome. Thank you.